and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Bryan the Duke Davids. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 54 of the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. My name is Aaron. I am your host. Joining me today, the guy that made his Schmoedown debut, sorta, kinda, not really, Frank Janisch. What's going on, dude? How are you?
I'm doing really well, Aaron, and these past couple of days with the Schmoedown, it's been a little tiring, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, hang in there, man. You're doing a great job. Also joining me, Brian Davids. What's up, pal?
Aaron, Frank, Christmas has come early. Entertainment Studios, the distributor behind 47 Meters Down, has acquired Christian Bale and Scott Cooper's festival darling, Hostile. So thank you to 47 Meters Down for making 9 times your budget and becoming the summer's biggest indie hit, as you afforded my favorite actor's next film a distributor plus a $15 million P&A budget.
So that movie was a hit?
Relatively speaking, it definitely was a hit.
It's weird how people misconstrue that. It's strange.
When you make 9 times your budget, you're doing something right. Even Spider-Man Homecoming did not come close to making 9 times its budget.
I want to mention something that happened last week. If you follow our Twitter account at SD Rundown, as you should, and at SD Rundown Stats as well, you noticed that we broke the news that there is a new category coming for the wheel, and it is John Carpenter films. And if you are a Schmoedown Rundown listener, you will know that I am a huge fan of John Carpenter and his films, and I've wanted this category forever. It is now here. We're not really sure when it's going to debut. The commissioner could not tell me that information. He just sent me a picture of a pie slice that had John Carpenter on it and the alien from They Live and Michael Myers, and that's all I needed. Super happy. Frank, what do you think of this development? Are you happy that Carpenter is on the wheel and that I will finally shut up about it?
I'm more happy for you than anything, Aaron. I'm also happy that we're getting another different kind of director, not your Spielberg or anything like that. John Carpenter, you know, he has a wide array of movies, interesting, different movies than a Spielberg or even Christopher Nolan, who has had a couple showings here and there. I'm interested to see what kind of questions we're going to get out of Carpenter, and if you're actually going to know all of them.
Oh, I wrote most of them. Brian, also, man, what do you think of this Carpenter wheel choice? Are you for it, against it? What are your thoughts?
Well, Christian's reveal to you via DM kind of reminds me of the time he sent you a John Campea image, but that's a whole different story entirely. But yeah, I'm happy that you finally got Carpenter on the wheel. I loved his work in Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Hills Have Eyes,
nope.
Red Eye. Really great director.
That's Wes Craven. It's not John Carpenter.
Oh, okay.
Anyone can make that mistake.
No, you can't.
What?
It's really unmistakable, but...
Oh, okay.
All right, we're just going to play this game. All right, fine. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm super excited. You complain enough and things happen. That's all I'm going to say in regards to that. So Carpenter on the wheel. Hashtag it if you must. Carpenter on the wheel. I hear that there is an update for the Schmoedown app. Brian, tell me about it.
Well, there's a lot of people that are upset that the app is not available for Android. Android is a popular phone, apparently, for much of the Schmoedownville audience, especially overseas. So we talked about how last week, if the iOS app does well, it's going to expedite the development of the Android app. However, Christian is already looking for developers for Android. So all of you international fans, rest assured, this process is underway already. So, of course, the iOS sales are going to help make this even quicker. But good news is that it's already coming down the pike. Please stop asking about it. It's coming.
So just to confer, it's Android, the operating system, not Mark Andreyko.
Correct.
He does not need an update.
But what about Windows phones? I mean, what about those users?
let's not get into that. Let's move on.
What about my razor?
Wow. All right. Brian, let's take a trip.
It's time for the Ward Wing.
This is art, Mr. White.
You guys, Brian Ward continues to prove why he's the second greatest Brian in this space, as he released two Dynamite posters this week, the first of which was an homage to Rocky IV, as JTE was Rocky, and he was looking up at the mountain known as McWeeny. McWeeny was making that big fist that he's made on our artwork before. Then, Bibbiani and Levine received the Little Shop of Horrors treatment with Levine as Moranis and Beast as Tui. A couple months ago, we started using Brian's artwork as our episode artwork. We merged our logo with Brian's artwork, and really the idea was that these posters should be prominently displayed. You know, oftentimes he'll post them on Twitter or on Facebook, and they get a lot of attention up front, but then they kind of disappear into the void. So I was happy to see today that the Schmoedown made use of the Little Shop poster. This was the Bibbiani Levine match today, so I'm glad that they have now incorporated Brian's posters into the actual Schmoedown, not just the Schmoedown Rundown. So make sure to follow Brian Ward at Brian E. Ward on Twitter, and check out his website at brianeward.com.
Let's jump into our first recap this week. It was aforementioned Godfather Drew McWeeny versus JTE. A lot of brackets had Drew McWeeny as the winner in a lot of places that I saw. We'll talk about what happens there here in just a second. In the promos and entrances, first of all, did you guys know that Drew McWeeny was in Stand By Me? Because I did not.
Funny line.
Once again, Tom Dagnino will not stop calling out Christian Harloff. A lot of stuff going on in these promos. Brian, what'd you think?
Well, the first thing I noticed was that JTE paid deference to Drew's career. He's been reading Drew for a long time, as have I. You know, I read him when he was part of Ain't It Cool. So he called him a legend. And that's what prompted Dagnino's Stand By Me comment. The reason I bring this up is because when it went back to Christian, he acted like JTE showed no respect for MVP, even though he did show more respect than he'd usually show for an opponent. So I guess their signals got crossed a little bit, but JTE definitely showed respect, rightfully so, to MVP.
Yeah, I thought it was a little out of character for a Lions Den member to show some respect towards any of their competitors, but I think that just shows how much JTE really does respect McWeeny and his knowledge. He's been following his readings and his criticism for a while. Also, I noticed about McWeeny right off the bat that he had no blazer on, no suit jacket. Kind of threw me off. I was used to the blazer suit jacket look. That's what I noticed right off the bat with McWeeny.
Casual McWeeny. Casual Friday, but it was Tuesday.
We had the debut of Frank's segment, as we talked about up top. I just want to say, Frank, I thought you did a great job.
Thank you for that.
I like the countdown. I like the earthquake effect. I like the numbers you chose to highlight. People need to understand, this was kind of a last-minute addition to this episode, so there was no real setup by Christian. In future matches down the road, Christian will have the chance to actually set it up. It was a little jarring given the cut, but the reason it was jarring, as I've just explained, is because it was kind of a last-second addition. But still, the content was fabulous. I want to give much credit there. I still think the segment should have been called Comfortably Numbers. Comfortably Numbers. That's just me, though.
And Frank, I like the binary code on it. I like all that feel. Kind of reminds me of Chris Jericho, so that always tickles my fancy. But I just wish you would return my phone calls now. And now I'm getting I'm just not getting anything from you. I mean, we're friends. Please call me back.
All right. Well, I will. I don't know what's happened. I'll have my people talk to your people, and we'll figure something out. But we have to give credit to, or I have to give credit to Brian Ward. He put together that thumbnail you see with all the binary that you were just talking about, Aaron, and my face is now on there, so that's great.
Yes.
Credit to Brian Ward. It really surprised me how well that looks and turned out.
I was just slapping myself on the wrist because that should have been part of the Ward Wing, because your thumbnail is definitely part of his artwork this week. So thank you for reminding me that should have been in the Ward Wing. I have failed you all. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. Frank, keep up the good work, buddy.
I will certainly try.
One thing before we get to the round-by-round discussion, you mentioned it briefly, Aaron. Dagnino keeps telling Christian that he's going to take his belt. Quote, counting the days until that belt is gone. Come January, that belt's going to be mine. End quote. So this is something that we started hearing as of the boat down, and we just didn't know as of the boat down what specifically Tom was talking about, what belt he was talking about. So Tom seems awfully confident that he's going to have that singles belt in his stable come January. So, Aaron, do you think he's got some kind of plan up his sleeve, or do you think he's just confident that either Snyder or JTE is going to win this tournament?
I wonder how many people have said the phrase, I don't know what Tom Dagnino's talking about. I wonder, first, that's my first thing. Second of all, I would say it would have to be confidence that one of his stable mates are going to win.
Android too, can't forget about him.
Yeah, exactly. So you got 3 possible winners. Well, really 2, because they will, 2 will cannibalize each other. I think that's what he's getting at, because Tom is not going to make a late entrance into this tournament, or will he? I don't know, but it seems to be weird. Christian told him he hated his face or something. It got awkward, but I never know what's up Tom's sleeve, so that's why I'm always interested in what he's doing.
I think he's got some tricks up his sleeve. He sounds awfully confident. Something's big is going to happen with the Lions, and I can feel it. Frank, did you like The Godfather's new rendition of the Godfather theme for his entrance?
I did. I noticed it right off the bat, and that one actually, it kind of gave me chills to listen to this one. And then, I kind of hoped he came out more in the Godfather character, but I know that's not necessarily Drew, and that's fine. But nonetheless, that music, it really built up his personality for me in this match.
Yeah, I definitely dug the theme too. The theme is good no matter what rendition it is, but I found this one to be particularly effective. And
I'm just always worried when competitors that show up in usually like a suit jacket or some sort of blazer or something, they go casual, because usually that means you're relaxed, and sometimes that can mean disaster. So I guess in this instance, it might have been some foreshadowing, but the theme was fine. Casual McWeeny, I don't know if it's for me.
Guys, you don't need a blazer when you're fresh off your MVP performance in the team tournament. He said, you know what, I'm going to leave the jacket at home. People know that I've got the potential to whack anyone. So I don't mind the casual approach. Plus, it's like 100 degrees in that studio. I don't blame anyone for leaving the blazer at home. Plus, in one of their team matches, they complained about the heat in that studio. So I think he learned from the past matches to keep it at home.
You can always tell what the temperature is in the studio by Mark Ellis's face. Always tell. That guy is red.
I think Mark has a mild allergy to alcohol. I think that's part of it as well.
Let's talk about round 1. JTE with 5 points. Drew with 6 points. Kubo in the 3 strings, guys.
Oh, great moment.
My goodness. Frank, what'd you think of round 1 here?
Oh, round 1, it was highly entertaining. They were kind of going back and forth for a little bit. JTE went on a run where he missed 3 questions in a row, so it got kind of iffy there. I thought JTE was going to let it really slip away there. But McWeeny, when you compare this performance to what he's done in the team, it's a bit of an off performance, below expectations, even though 6 is a fine number to get. Still a little surprising given his recent run in the tournament.
Brian, I know JT makes these flubs. At one point, I just thought it was a rib, and now I'm not sure. What did you think of his round 1 performance here? Andrews as well.
Well, first off, I'm stunned that MVP did not get the Mr. Brown Reservoir Dogs question. I don't know what the deal is with this league and Quentin Tarantino. I don't know what the deal is, but regardless.
In the Friday the 13th film series, what is the nickname given to Camp Crystal Lake? All right, we see
There's some groans, but I think it's all from Riley.
Mark Riley's acting the fool.
You guys
out there.
realize I literally just wrote a book on Friday.
Jesus.
That's one of the best quotes we've heard on the show and from MVP so far. That's just a hilarious moment when that question was asked. Kubo and the 3 strings. I'm going to get some heat for this, but I don't care. I don't care because this is a leeway league so far. I would have given JTE the point.
Oh boy.
Because
really?
He was close enough. And there have been plenty of other cases where people have been given leeway. But as I've said many times, because it's JTE, because he's a 7-0 team champ, because he's a heel, he's not going to get those calls. Matt Nost would get that call For example, that Monty Python question in one of their team matches. He wrote a completely different title of a Monty Python film, and he still got it right. So leeway is given historically. It's just not going to go in JTE's direction for whatever reason. But I was surprised, though, that this round ended 6-5. Drew with 6 points, nothing to scoff at. Of course, he's so good, we always expect him to be perfect, but he doesn't guess. He just leaves his board blank. Throw something out. I realize you don't know what film Charlize Theron, Ralph Fiennes, and Matthew McConaughey shared, but just throw out something. Throw out anything. And Christian asked why Rafe is pronounced like Rafe versus Ralph. And there's an old school English tradition dating back to the 1400s, maybe even earlier than that, where the L is silent, and it also indicates that the preceding vowel becomes longer. Thus, Rafe, spelled Ralph, becomes Rafe. Ralph Fiennes was named after his step-grandfather, and he wanted to honor his family by keeping the spelling and the pronunciation, despite being a problem for someone who works in show business. He thought about changing it after some early confusion back in the early days of his career, but it was kind of too late at that point. So he asked that question, and I just wanted to give the explanation. But JTE, once again, as I said from my very first show, he's capable of beating anybody, and I'm really impressed that he hung tough with MVP in round one and was not afraid of him. Was not afraid of him whatsoever.
Okay, one thing about this Kubo on the 2 strings, I agree there's leeway in this league, but that's a little too far, if you ask me. Because Kubo on the 3 strings is wrong, but they give it to him. Let's say they give it to him, and Drew challenges that's not the title. It's Kubo and the 2 strings. What do you do in that situation, if this is a leeway situation?
It's been a leeway league, and you've got to stay consistent with what the league has been so far. He knew the movie, he was close enough, and there have been plenty of other examples where people have been close enough, good as it gets. Christian didn't write as good as it gets, he wrote good as it gets. Again, there are better examples than this, and people have been given the point. So, it's JTE, people make fun of him for things like this. He's going to get a harsher treatment than most.
I think he does get a little unfair treatment when it comes to this kind of thing. It's not like he mispronounced a word. It's just a number. I really didn't think it was that big of a deal. He was close, yes. Is it something to laugh about and joke about? I didn't really think so. He just got the number wrong, and that's all there is to that one.
As I've said, I'm just going with what the calls have usually been. 3 strings, 2 strings. He knew the movie close enough, and based on history, I would have given it to him. That's the call I would have ruled, but it's not the call that it was. That's fine. It is what it is. Guys, we cannot move to round 2 before we discuss this Karate Kid Part 2 question. Drew gave the country name, Japan. JTE answered thinking that they were asking for a Japanese city. He wrote Tokyo and something else, blah, blah, blah. So since JTE wrote a Japanese city, clearly JTE knew Japan was the country. He just thought that the question required a city as the answer. The question did not specify the type of location, be it a country, city, town, or province, as MVP called it. So I like that the challenge was issued, and I like that a new question was granted, because JTE answering a Japanese city does establish that he knew the country was Japan. So this is what I've always been talking about, where the wording of these questions can alter and derail your thinking or send it into various directions. So one person thought they were asking for the country, one person thought they were asking for the city. That's why it's critical that we make sure that these questions are worded as carefully as possible to where we know what they're supposed to give as the answer. So the right call was made. JTE knew it was Japan, but you can't give it to MVP and not JTE in this case, even though he got the Japanese city wrong. So the new question asked for who was Cassian in John Wick 2. That was common, of course. So it was really much ado about nothing, as it ended up as it would have ended up had they not granted JTE the challenge and the redo. I just want to make a point that the challenge and the redo was valid in my mind because JTE picked a city within Japan. It was the question wording that was really at fault. So, Frank, are you in agreement? Do you disagree? What do you think of this?
I was in agreement that they should get a new question, because you're right, that question did not specify country, city, what have you. And, more importantly, everyone else in that room felt like it was fair. Drew said as much. He felt like it was a fair thing, and he won the point. So, he felt it was fair. And as long as everyone there feels like it's fair, that's good enough for me.
If JTE had said Hong Kong, then that's a different story because Hong Kong is not in Japan. So, Turner, are we all on the same page?
They made the right call. If you have a question about the question, you throw out the question, you get a different question. That's exactly how you should do it. It should be done like that every time. So I'm in.
Turner, do people know that you're a big James Van Der Beek fan?
It's not true also.
I just want to let them know. But anyways, take us to round 2.
I don't want your life.
Oh boy. All right. Well, good Lord. Well, after that acting performance, in round 2, we had JTE going first. He got Tom Cruise movies. He stuck with it. 4-4 for 7 points. No steal opportunities for McWeeny here. Frank, what'd you think?
Yeah, JTE did a huge thing here strategically in ensuring that McWeeny did not have an opportunity to steal, because this is what McWeeny and Levine, as a team of Above the Line, their strategy is to defer. So it was no surprise to see McWeeny defer because he wants to know what he needs to do in his round after his opponent has gone. And these Tom Cruise questions I didn't think were the toughest, but then again, if you're a fan of Tom Cruise, which apparently JTE is, and rightfully so. I think a lot of people are fans of Tom Cruise, or they've seen Tom Cruise because he is one of the biggest movie stars in the world. This was just an episode on Schmoes Know, although it was the taped episode. So even if you just watched that, you would know probably most of these questions. I thought it was a great round by JTE, and when he had this good of a round, I thought McWeeny, he better get something really good because he would have to basically run the table to maintain the lead.
Yeah, JT has not lost that love and feeling when it comes to Tom Cruise. Oh. Brian, what'd you think of his turn here, Brian?
Yeah, I like that Drew stayed consistent as far as the round 2 strategy, as Frank already described. And JTE spinning Tom Cruise, this is a strength of his. It may not be advertised in the same way that Arnie and Sly would be advertised, but he's definitely a Tom Cruise buff. If you follow JTE, you know that just from his social media presence. But I like the mix of questions. Nicole Kidman in Days of Thunder, the sort of sequel to The Hustler, Color of Money. And he was taken aback when they asked for Sherry Christian in Rock of Ages. And this goes back to that point that just because the category is Tom Cruise, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get nothing but Tom Cruise questions. You're going to get people affiliated with Tom Cruise movies. And I think JTE knew that, and yet it still caught him off guard. Christian kind of mocked him a little bit for reacting the way he did, but he asked for a repeat. He went multiple choice, and he got Julianne Hough, even though he mispronounced Julianne Hough. He said Julie Hough. Regardless, he got the point. Leah Thompson, question 4. All the right moves? It's a good pull.
That's really good.
So, end of a 7-point turn for JTE. 3 questions out of the 4 ask for actor names. Keep that in mind as we move forward in this episode. Once again, guys, JTE is not afraid of anyone. He is a Schmoedown veteran, and a lot of players, they'd be intimidated to play MVP right now. He's the hottest player in the Schmoedown, but JTE did not back down. The Stallone spirit within JTE. This is the fight instinct that he's had all his life, growing up on the streets of Ecuador, battling muggers in the street. So I'm always impressed with JTE, but I saw something extra in this round especially.
So he showed you the money, you could say.
Oh!
I got more. All right, let's jump over to Drew's turn. He spun 80s, and he said, I'll take it. He goes 3 of 4 for 6 points. No steals at all in this round. 12-12 going into the third. Frank, what'd you think of Drew's turn here?
A little disheartening that he missed on the multiple choice question, the second question. All the other questions, he got 2 points. So he came out with a tie, which is good enough because that gives you the advantage in the third round per se. I mean, 80s, we've seen what he can do in the 80s in the team tournament. So it was no surprise that he got 6 points here.
I wish he did a callback to his previous line, the line where he said, you guys realize I literally just wrote a book on Friday the 13th. I wish he did a callback of sorts where he would say, guys, you realize I host an 80s podcast, right? So that would have been a fun callback type joke. But regardless, 6 out of 8, it's a great round. But when it comes to Drew McWeeny, we all want perfection or at least 7 points at worst. But still, 6 out of 8 points, very respectable. The Mr. Mom employer question, JTE couldn't steal it either. Both men missed it. The employer, before the layoff, this is not something that you can pick up from a movie poster. It's not something you can pick up from a trailer. This is such a specific detail. This is what makes question difficulty apparent. It's not asking for something that is surface level. It is asking for something that is deep within the movie to where you almost have to watch the movie. Certain questions, you don't have to watch the movie. You can look at the surface elements, the marketing, and come away with some takeaways. In this case, you kind of had to see the movie. So this was a tough question. It was an objectively difficult question. Even if you knew the answer, it is still a difficult question given the level of specificity. So more on that later. I love when Christian chimed in with the Arnold impression. It's always a good time when he does that. Strong rounds from both players. 7 points from JTE, 6 for Drew. Great match so far. It was going to come down to ultimately the first person to make a giant mistake. At this point, in my notes, I wrote, instant classic, ?
And please, just, if you're around Josh Makuga, just don't mention Commando. Just don't do it, because he will get very upset. All right, let's get into round 3. JTE up first. He got the 2-pointer, The Matrix, over to Drew McWeeny. He got the 2-pointer as well. Helen Mirren back over to JTE. The 3-pointer, David Lean. Great pull by JTE. Another one in this match. Drew McWeeny hits his as well. Ice Cube in Anaconda. It is 17 all at this point. So it's down to the 5-pointers. Somebody's got to hit. Somebody's got to take the lead.
Other than Optimus Prime, name 2 of the Autobots that appeared in Michael Bay's 2007 Transformers film.
Okay, 2007. First one, what was Dark Moon, I think. Repeat the question.
Other than Optimus Prime, name 2 of the Autobots that appeared in Michael Bay's 2007 Transformers film.
Bumblebee, and would you say it had to be Optimus Prime's team, or can it be a Decepticon also?
Do you want me to repeat the question, last one?
Last one, please.
Other than Optimus Prime, name 2 of the Autobots that appeared in Michael Bay's 2007 Transformers film.
Bumblebee.
2.
And Jax.
Incorrect. Looking for either Bumblebee, Ratchet, Jazz, or Ironhide. So now...
Is that Dark of the Moon?
Now we come down...
First one was 2007?
JT misses the 5. The Autobots in the 2007 Transformers, he could not pull it. So Drew has a chance to pull it off, and he can't do it. He can't pull the 5-pointer. It was the 3 Musketeers. So we go to sudden death. 17 all. Frank, what'd you think?
Yeah, this third round was a sight to behold. It looked like it was going to go down to the final question, and that would determine the winner. Both nailed their 2 and 3 pointers. GTE got taglines and that 2-pointer. Taglines can be a pretty tough category, but thankfully with the degree of difficulty, it was only the 2-pointer. So with Matrix being the answer, I felt like that was a pretty good 2-pointer for taglines, because if he got a 3 or a 5, I think majority of the time that's probably going to sink somebody. But luckily he got the 2-pointer, and I think that was the saving grace in the order in which he gave the numbers, because like I just said, if he had given it 2nd or 3rd, it's probably a tougher tagline to name a movie. So I think that really, really helped him right there. But JTE also not getting the Autobots. I can't believe that was actually a 5-point question. As much crap as everyone gives these movies, they talk about them an awful lot. I realize he couldn't picture or place if it was the first or second one that came out. But nonetheless, just name the 2 most, or you couldn't even name Optimus. So obviously he got said Bumblebee. And then if you've seen the movies, which I think he has, or I believe he has. So I was a little disappointed in that one, but it made for great, great drama heading into sudden death.
And quick shout out to Christian for not answering JT's clarifying question. Was it Autobots or Decepticons? He just said, do you want me to repeat it? So that's kind of a step in the right direction. We were talking about that a couple episodes ago. I like that. What do you think of this turn, Brian? 17-17 all. What do you think?
To that point, Drew did get away with a clarifying question on his end. So as I've been saying, the heels, especially the Lions then, especially the team champs, they don't get the same treatment that the face players get. And that's just the way things go. That's the way WWE works. Faces and heels are all treated differently. But I'm sure John Matrix was awfully proud of JTE's Matrix pull for his 2-pointer, right?
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh. Wow. Okay.
For the uninitiated, John Matrix is Arnold Schwarzenegger's name in Commando. So you can see what I did there. We took one thing we were just talking about and merged it with the new thing that we're talking about. Thus,
I got it.
Just making sure, some people don't get everything I say. I have to explain it over and over again. So I just want to make sure people understand. But Drew McWeeny answered right back with his Helen Mirren question, tied it back up. JTE's 3-pointer, director of Lawrence of Arabia, David Lean. Guys, did you guys know the director of Lawrence of Arabia? Honestly.
Heck no.
No.
Neither did I. So,
yeah, that could have been a 5-pointer.
JTE, guys, he knows what he needs to know. He knows some of these classic films. He knows enough about them. And I know he's seen Arabia. I think I saw it in one of his Blu-ray videos that he made once upon a time. But again, I'm always impressed with JTE, especially in moments like this. But Drew McWeeny fired right back. Ice Cube and Anaconda. I can still picture him holding a video camera for some reason next to Jennifer Lopez, I believe. But once again, 17-17 tie. Just back and forth, back and forth. This is like a Duke, Kentucky college basketball game in the 90s where both teams are just trading buckets back and forth, or Michigan, North Carolina. I mean, it's just a slugfest. And the JTE 5-pointer, the Autobots, the issue that I had with this question was that there was a backdoor question that distracted from the actual question. Other than Optimus Prime, name 2 of the Autobots that appeared in Michael Bay's 2007 Transformers film. It did not specify or clarify which Transformers film it was. So JTE spent way too much time trying to think of which Transformers film they were referencing. So it threw him off there. So he's like, he had to make sure he had the right movie, and then he had to think about which Autobots were in that specific movie. Obviously, he thought they were talking about the second one, as we found out later, but the back door of this question threw him off from what the question was actually asking. Name 2 Autobots. So in this case, why not just specify which movie it is? There have been 5 Transformers movies in the last 10 years. It's important to specify.
Well, what's the name of the first Transformers movie? Transformers.
The way that it worded it requires you to know that that film came out in 2007. So it's not saying the 2007 Transformers. The way that it was worded suggested that it could be one of several options. It was not worded or said in a way that says this is the original Transformers. That's why he said later,
I don't know.
was that Dark of the Moon?
It feels like he thought he was getting tricked in the question, which wasn't the case. So I think that's kind of him playing tricks on himself or psyching himself out, thinking, if it was a specific movie besides Transformers, was Dark of the Moon or what have you, Revenge of the Fallen. I didn't read it that way, and so I was like, why is he taking it that way? They just said Transformers. Obviously, if you knew that movie came out in 2007, you don't think that. You just know that that's the one. So I didn't really have a problem with the way it was worded.
Well, JT had a problem with the way it was worded because he thought they were asking about Dark of the Moon. I just want the wording to be a bit more clear so that he's focused on naming Autobots, not figuring out which of the 5 Transformers films could this be. And that wasted time to where he then had to use a repeat rule. And ultimately, he still got it wrong. So there was no harm in specifying which film it was. And this goes back to the Japan question. It did not specify what kind of location they were looking for. And so it led Drew to answer with the country. It led JTE to answer with the city. So the way these questions are worded, the way they are read to the players can throw off their thinking. And the last 5 words of this question threw JTE off as he was thinking about, which movie was this? He got it wrong. He said Jax instead of Jazz. He was close, but no cigar. He used 2 repeat rules. It's just frustrating, though, when I saw exactly what he struggled with and why he struggled with it. I know I get wrapped up in these things more than most people, but when you can't see the question, you're relying so much on what you hear. And when you hear something that is unclear, It can send your mind in various directions, and that's what happened. And Christian, after all this went down, he looked like he was about to die. He was bright red. He looked like he was frustrated with JTE for taking so much time on this question, but I don't blame JTE for taking his time because the very end of that question created some doubt. But Drew McWeeny's final question, Slumdog, it was based on what book? Drew asked for multiple choice, and this drives me nuts when I wouldn't say Drew's a veteran player, but he's played enough to know that in this round there's no multiple choice. And this is where having Samm Levine flanking him is so important because he's able to keep Drew in check. He's able to make sure he's aware of what's going on, like that round 1 team match where Drew didn't even realize it was the winning question. So in this case, he thought there was multiple choice, there wasn't, and once again, he didn't even put out a guess. Just name any book, name Great Expectations, list any book you can think of. Just try to answer the question. This is really troubling for a great player to not even put forth any effort. Turner, do you have issues with McWeeny not putting forth some kind of answer just in case he happens to get lucky?
Yeah, I mean, you got to try something at least. I mean, put the Snowman, put Hunger Games. I don't care what you put. You got to put something. I mean, who knows? You might pull a Josh McCougan and just get it right. Who knows? I
mean, it's your last question, the one to win the game. You know, throw up a Hail Mary, do it in Aaron Rodgers. It's just... it kind of baffles me when that doesn't happen. I don't know. Sometimes you just blink like that, I guess. I don't know. I've never been in that situation. You know, I don't know if I would call him not a veteran. I mean, he's played in 7, now 8 matches. Granted, he hasn't had much to do in the third round. So that could have a little bit to do with it. But you would think, I would hope he knows the rules in round 3 that there's no multiple choice. But it is what it is. And more than anything, just disappointed he didn't even take a wild guess on that last question.
Well, the reason I didn't call him a veteran was because he hasn't even been in this league for a year. He debuted late November of 2016, and it's crazy to think, but Bibbiani hasn't even been in this league for a year. His anniversary will be November 11th, so it's just hard for me to call someone a veteran when they haven't even played a complete season, but that's not important. Since he did it 3 times... I don't want to see great players give up. I want to see them dig and work and claw their way to a potential guess, no matter how wrong it is. Don't just stop because you don't have anything, because you don't know it. Give me something. Credit to Josh McCougar, credit to JTE. Those guys will at least give you something. They will do whatever it takes to at least throw out a Hail Mary a la Aaron Rodgers. And sometimes you might connect.
Doug Flutie style.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sudden death now. So this is where both players get to answer the same questions. They write it on the board. Whoever does not answer and the other person answers it correctly wins. So guys, I mean, I didn't know how long this was going to go. We've seen this happen in the past where it wasn't very long. This one went 6 rounds. Kim Basinger was the first answer. Everybody got it. Jennifer Hudson the second. Elijah Wood the third. They all missed, or both of them, I guess, missed the 4th question, which was Los Angeles. They both got the 5th, James Earl Jones. So at this point, it's 21-21, and JTE, guys, pulls it out. Apollo 13, who filled in for Gary Sinise? Well, it was Kevin Bacon. And JTE took your bracket, wadded it up, and threw it in a trash can in the corner, and he defeats the Godfather 22-21, which means we're going to see JTE versus Jeff Snyder in round 2. Patriot v. Patriot. Dawn of Justice. I don't know. Frank, what'd you think, man?
I loved this sudden death much better than they've ever done in the past. I'm glad it is in this style, in this format. It made for tremendous drama because it really hinged on, is this going to be the last question? We don't know. Let's find out. I love the fact that Christian didn't automatically say to one or the other when the answer, if it was correct. He waited till both revealed their answers and then told you if they were correct. A lot of these questions I felt were, for the most part, pretty surface level. So I like that they weren't too tough, but, you know, because I think it also helps with probably elongating this round a little bit. So, and that adds the dramatic effect to it as well. McWeeny's miss on Apollo 13 absolutely killed me because Apollo 13 is one of my favorite movies of all time. Not knowing it was Kevin Bacon, that hurt, but hey, sometimes people just don't know everything, and you can't fault them for not knowing everything. But, Drew McWeeny, he knows a lot. I thought perhaps he would know this one, but didn't turn out that way. JTE gets the win, and it's going to set up a hell of a round 2 match.
So many brackets in the trash, not ours, because we all picked JTE to win. But Brian, what'd you think here? JTE is the victor.
I tried to tell everybody following the last Patriots sudden death win that the new sudden death format was awesome. But change scares people for whatever reason. Anytime there's a change within this game, there's a big divide where some people want the old thing and some people like the new thing. But this puts it over the top. This is awesome. This is an unbelievable format, and no one is going to be pining for the old format, rest assured. But I knew JTE was going to win as soon as he said to Christian, "I've been here before," to start sudden death, and that's true. He's the one who kicked off this particular format. So when I saw his confidence right there, I figured he was going to come away with it. There were too many moments with Drew throughout this match where he just did not seem to have that killer instinct for whatever reason. When you give up on questions, that's troubling. JTE is always going to go down crawling and kicking and screaming. He's going to do whatever it takes. Question 4. Will Dormer and Hap and Insomnia are from what city? They're cops. Once again, McWeeny did not bother to guess. Just throw out anything, any city. Just throw something out. And he didn't bother to guess. And the joke was, Nolan did a panel with Pacino not too long ago. And there's this headcanon in some people's minds that Insomnia is a sort of sequel to Heat, where Pacino's character from Heat has to go to Alaska while he's being investigated by internal affairs for unethical practices and whatnot. In Heat, he's a higher rank, he's a lieutenant. In Insomnia, he's a detective, he's lower in the rank, but that's how I always remembered that it was LAPD, because it was jokingly referred to once as a Heat sequel. So the fact that neither of them got it shocks me. It shocks me. The big question, question 6, Jack Swigert. Christian mispronounced his name as Swigert. As I've talked about before, Drew should have challenged the Swigert mispronunciation, since that can derail your thinking a la Iceman / Tom Kazansky being pronounced as Tom Kaczynski, like the Unabomber. Swigert versus Swigert is not as extreme as Iceman's real name question, but when it comes to trivia, one word can jog your memory and bring something to mind. If that one word is mispronounced, the odds of your memory being sparked or jogged become less and less. So a challenge could have potentially overturned the question like we saw earlier in the match. I'm not blaming Christian. Not blaming him whatsoever. It's a tough job what he has to do. It's a high-stress situation.
Let's go to the post-match interview where Grace Sancock was not there. So it was Emma Fife interviewing the Den. And Tom Dagnino, guys, we love Tom. I love Tom. You love Tom. Drops a killer line. He says, "We're married to this, and everyone else is engaged." Just a great, great line. JTE, guys, he's making a case. Like we said over the past couple weeks that the new blood has taken over the old blood. I'm not really sure where JTE falls in that with Snyder. I kind of feel like they're on the fringe of both. But JTE eliminating McWeeny, who is a new blood person, that makes a strong case. We'll talk about that more later. But Frank, what did you think of this post-match? Were you impressed with JT's respect? Number one, he had a great bit for Drew McWeeny. And were you entertained? Right
off the bat, without Grace being there, I was scared for Emma's well-being. You never know what Dagnino is going to throw her into, a closet, a trash can. I don't know. You just don't know with this guy. You're right. His line about marriage and being engaged. Can someone please out there cut together all of this guy's like greatest lines? It's beyond entertaining. I love it every time he's on the mic. He's great. And JTE showing respect to McWeeny, and look, I'm not a huge supporter of Lions Den. I don't root against them, though, either. In a match like this, where I really don't have a vested interest in who wins or who doesn't, even though I did pick JTE to win. That's besides the point. What I do like, though, about Lions Den is that when they win, man, do they play it up. Are they good on the mic when they win? There's no team faction out there that's better on the mic when they win, and this one did not fail to disappoint.
I agree. Brian, what'd you think, man?
First off, Heather Grace Hancock, she was off moderating a Gossip Girl reunion panel. That's why Emma was there alone. And I am surprised, though, that the Den allowed her to interview them. Could this mean that this whole face-heel interviewer stuff is coming to an end? Does Dagnino have a plan for why he would include Emma this time? Hopefully, as we discussed last week, hopefully this is part of them wrapping up this whole interviewer struggle, face-heel nonsense, whatever. Hopefully this is the beginning of resolution. Because they could have just interviewed themselves. They didn't need Fife to be there for the interview. They could have done it themselves. So hopefully, as we discussed last week, we get resolution. This is the beginning step of it. This is exactly why, my last point, this is exactly why I faded McWeeny before this tournament started. He did too much in the team tournament to where I knew that the pressure would be too great, that people would be pressing him to do the same thing in singles, and there's just no way you can repeat that same magic. And not having Sam to flank him, to keep him aware of certain things, I knew would come back to haunt him at some point. So I'm not surprised, either of you guys, we all picked JTE, and I'm looking forward to the Civil War. Tom Dagnino, he's going to be the star of that Civil War. I cannot wait to see how he handles that match. You know he's got something amazing planned.
Absolutely. And the thing is, when Drew came up for his side of the interview, I half expected it to be, it wasn't my day, the wheel didn't go my way, this or that. It's kind of your typical losing speech. But he said something that perked my ears right up, and he said, they lit the fire. This match lit the fire. Got new motivation to take down Action and win the team titles and beat the Patriots. So now you may have accidentally, without even really trying, rumbled the cage of the Godfather, Drew McWeeny himself. And that's not a guy that I want on my case. Frank, what'd you think here?
Yeah, I think that was very telling, although I'm a little cautious that they're overlooking Team Action, because Team Action can do some damage, but I think the good thing is Samm Levine's there, so hopefully if Drew is looking now towards the Patriots because he just lost to JTE, he wants to get them back. Hopefully Sam can rein him in if he needs reining in. But that's the only slight cause for concern I have with that statement. I love it, but let's take care of Action like I think they can. Sorry, Ben and Andrew, although not really. But anyways, it was nice to see that from Drew, that he had the fires lit. I just first use that fire on Action.
Quick follow-up. You're in a dark alley. You look behind you, and there's Drew McWeeny walking towards you slowly. Do you walk faster?
Yeah, I run. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Brian, what do you think of Drew McWeeny here in this post-match and the fire that is lit from the Godfather?
Yeah, I like that he found a silver lining in this loss. He was using it as a scouting method of sorts. He now understands JTE's strengths and weaknesses a bit more. Maybe he can exploit those if Above the Line beats Action and goes on to play the Patriots at Spectacular. So we'll see. But I like that he was focused on down the road if they meet. Now he knows a bit more about the competition.
Hi, I'm Aaron Turner. You may know me as the host of this fine program, the Schmoedown Rundown. Perhaps you know me from my small cameo in the McG film, We Are Marshall. Either way, I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad that you're listening. I want to tell you about the SK Plus YouTube channel as well as the Schmoes Know iTunes feed. If you're listening or watching via the SK Plus YouTube channel, please give our video a thumbs up and leave us a comment in the section below. Tell us what you thought of the episode. We'd love to hear it. And of course, subscribe to the SK Plus YouTube channel. That way you're up to date on all the newest episodes of all the shows we have. Special welcome to our good friends Ace and RB3 with their new show, The Meaning of. Definitely check it out. Those guys are fantastic. If you're listening via iTunes on the Schmoes Know iTunes feed, please rate and review the feed itself. Give us a good rating. That way we can move up the charts and more people can find this great content. We certainly appreciate your support. And of course, for more Rundown news, follow at SD Rundown and at SD Rundown Stats on Twitter. And now, back to our scheduled program.
All right, guys, we're back from break. We're talking the next match. It is William the Beast Bibbiani versus the Inglorious One, Samm Levine. First of all, 3-man table. Makuga, Ken, and a very hot-looking Mark Ellis. I meant that temperature-wise, not attractiveness, but he's not a bad-looking guy. Guys, I have a theory of why we're getting 3-man tables. I think because the three of us have such a good dynamic, people want to start experimenting with that and see how it works and see if they can make the Schmoedown flow better, like this great program that we have here. Do you guys notice that?
I want to give ourselves credit like you're trying to do, but
trying so hard.
But practically speaking, I think they knew Christian was about to take some time off, and I think they wanted to give some people reps so that when he did end up leaving, they would have a better feel for how to call a match.
Damn, Frank, give me credit.
So yeah.
Cool. Got it. All right.
But guys, when I saw the 3-man booth with Josh Makuga, I kind of cringed initially, just because I'm typically not a fan of Makuga at the table. And when you have a 3-man table, that's usually going to be more chaos on top of the 2 men that are playing the actual game. Luckily, it was only a singles match, but for whatever reason, Josh Makuga was more subdued at this 3-man table. He did not do his usual over-the-top routine. Maybe it was the presence of Ken Knapsack. Maybe it was the presence of Mark Ellis. Something kept him from going complete wild man, so I really appreciate that. It was interesting. Makuga and Ken both echoed points, specific points that I've been making on the show for a while. I'm not going to say what they are, but it was very interesting. Guess great minds think alike. I don't know. But Aaron, what are your thoughts as far as promos?
Well, Bibbs called Sam a stepping stone, and Sam took that as a short joke, which that's got to hurt. Frank, I know he's a fellow Chicagoan of yours. Did you take offense to the short joke, and were you upset at the Beast?
To be honest, I didn't see it as a short joke. I just saw it as a sign of disrespect to Sam as a player. But then when Sam brought it up that it's low-hanging fruit and that he's short, I said, oh, well, I guess it's all relative, really.
Did he just double make a joke by saying it was low-hanging fruit? But anyway, I digress. Also, something of note here, Bibbs using reverse psychology, saying that Samm Levine was going to destroy him and that he was going to uppercut a T-Rex with a handful of pandas. I'm not really sure if that's an exact quote, but man, it got weird all of a sudden. My goodness. And then we jump over to Samm Levine, who I swear secretly has a vendetta against everyone. He called Christian a punk. He has this thing with Roca. Him and Ellis have this weird back and forth too. He lost to both Clark and Mark and then beat them, but still, I feel like there's still something there too. So I don't know, guys. Like, give me your thoughts on the promos overall, Frank, and tell me, am I off base here? Or do you think Sam has a secret vendetta against everybody?
I think he kind of does, but what's so interesting here is it's so under the radar that if you're not paying close attention, you'll miss it. And so you got to pay close attention to what he's saying, to who he's saying it to, how he says it. It's one of the great things I like about Sam being on the Schmoedown. It can be very subtle or it can be very overt. You never know what you're going to get. He's very diverse like that. I love when he's on the Schmoedown. Bibbiani, talk about getting weird. I had no idea where he was going. I was intrigued, though. I was like, I hope he ties this up somehow. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I want to find out. Just one of the more weird promos I've ever seen in the Schmoedown, let alone from Bibbiani.
Brian, we're uppercutting T-Rexes. We're calling Christian a punk. What in the world did you think of this?
Well, first off, I like that the Beast kind of admitted that his hubris has been an issue as far as his disappointing outcomes of his matches of late, both teams and singles. So, yeah, it may have been part of some overall reverse jinxing, reverse psychology, but I think there was a bit of truth there as far as he's overlooking people. I think the fact that Sam heard him say that the Beast was going to step right on him, I understand why Sam would take that as a dig at his height. You know, it may not have been, but I can understand why he would go in that direction, just because if the Beast thinks he can literally step on him, then maybe height is a factor. But regardless, when I heard Levine say that Harloff is a punk and that he wants to face him, my ears perked up right away. I found this interesting for a variety of reasons that I won't get into, but I am not surprised that this exchange happened. I'm not surprised at all. And I just want to say I like Sam's Cubs hat. I like that he wore a Cubs hat with little fanfare. It was muted colors. Frank, I'm sure you appreciate the Cubs hat because every Chicago sports team you clearly love, including the Cubs?
Clearly, yes. Oh, yeah, especially when they're from the South Side.
That's right. So I was expecting him to wear the Chicago Sauce T-shirt, the Heinz T-shirt, since that was part of your conversation. Maybe next time, we'll see.
Sam did come out in the intro. It's very simple. The Ferris Bueller hashtag at Clammy Hands, walking out, doing the wave, sitting down. And then, guys, the Beast. He didn't come out at first. But if you're, of course, a keen sci-fi movie fan, you knew the Predator music. But we didn't know what was going to happen. Was he going to come out? Was it going to be infrared? What was it going to be? And when you know it, it was Predator camouflage, and all of a sudden, there was the Beast, just out of nowhere. I thought that was awesome. Shout out to Aaron and the guys that do the editing over there. My goodness, this is some good stuff.
Yeah, Aaron Wilhelm wants his Christmas bonus in October. That was probably one of the best visual examples that we've had so far. So great job. Loved it. The Beast always gets the extra oomph on his entrances just because he's such an over-the-top character that they always find ways to give him the most grand entrances, whether it's people coming out in a group with wounds and arms missing. They always seem to orchestrate something extravagant for the Beast. Obviously, 6 Degrees and whatnot, they do their thing. But the Beast, as far as entrances go with the guys, he's the one who gets the most grand of them all.
Frank, what did you think of this entrance, man?
Loved it. I loved it. Bibbiani always goes for it, and he never ceases to amaze me with his entrances. Sometimes, aside for critically acclaimed, but that's a different story. But when he's in singles, man, the guy brings it. And I love that, every now and then we get these special effect performances, whether it's with Rachel or now Bibbiani. They're always great, and great work by the team over there. Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure Sam was keeping in mind, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Let's go to round one, where it was Levine getting 6 of 8 for 6 points, and the Beast 8 for 8, plus the 1 point ever relevant Blade Runner question, 9 points for him. So it's 9-6 after the turn. Bibbs with a perfect round, but it's the first time he's gotten the bonus. Frank, reach into that stat sack and tell me what you thought of this round.
Yeah, really not so surprised that Bibbiani got a perfect round. A little surprised that he got the bonus because he was 0 for 2 before this bonus round, or bonus question, rather. Samm Levine, 6 points, pretty much on par with what he's been doing throughout this 8-question format here in the first round. But the one thing that I was curious about was this Blade Runner question, which I think we're going to get into because there's some different opinions on 2 acceptable answers.
Well, another perfect round for the Beast. That is now 16 perfect rounds between singles and teams in 2017 versus 8 perfect round 2s between singles and teams in 2017. So that tells me that round 1 is the easier round, even though there are more questions, bigger variety of categories. And it's interesting to note that there were no questions that asked for character names in round 1. I found it interesting that we got another Monty Python question that seems to be coming up of late, as is Vertigo. I was impressed with the difference as far as question 8, Dead Poet Society. Samm Levine went with his boy, Josh Charles. Beast went with Robert Sean Leonard. Ethan Hawke was also an answer. But a solid round from Levine nonetheless. 6 out of 8, that's nothing to scoff at. And yeah, the bonus question. Deckard was originally ordered to kill 4 replicants. However, Rachel was eventually added to that list, making it 5. So I think you could have given it either way. If someone had answered 5, I think they would have given that to them as well, because an argument can be made for either 4 or 5. The original order was 4. It was updated to 5. But I think they would have just given it to both options. So, interesting debate, though. I like that.
All right, let's go to round 2, where Bibbs was up first, and he spun a category that will live in infamy now, known as Festival Darlings, a new category on the wheel. Chris Skaliski and I talked about this at length off air. Bibbs went 0 for 4 for 0 points. Sam added 3 steals for 3 points. So it's a 9-9 tie after Bibbs' turn. So that perfect round with the bonus question that was all going his way kind of slipped away here with Festival Darlings. Frank, first of all, what do you think of the category, and what did you think of Bibbs' round performance here?
Category was caught me by surprise. Didn't realize it was on the wheel till it actually landed on that slice. Him going 0 for 4. Never, ever thought I'd see the day Bibbiani would go 0 for 4, let alone going to multiple choice 3 times and still coming up with 0 points. That was absolutely fascinating and surprising to see from a guy of Bibbiani's knowledge. We heard in the post-match that he does go to festivals, that, he's a critic. This is what he does. And so for him to not even get 1 point out of this round, super, super surprising. And yeah, you could say this is probably where he ended up losing the match for the most part.
Yeah, said it hurt his indie cred. Brian, what'd you think here?
Now, Festival Darlings, the first time I heard this phrase was on a particular show hosted by Fredo Knapsack. He said it by mistake, so I've been waiting ever since then to hear Festival Darlings come up within the actual show, and this was it. And this is basically a cool way of saying indies. This is the indie category. They're just calling it Festival Darlings, which it's a cool name. I like it. But make no mistake, these are just indie films, the buzzworthy indie films that often get awards and whatnot. But I have no problem with the category. The category is not the issue here. The types of questions are really the issue here. Name the end song in Whiplash. He had to go to multiple choice. The name of the song was Caravan, and it was stolen by Samm Levine. Scores and Soundtracks comes back to haunt the beast once again, but Caravan, there's no lyrics, there's no vocals in most of these Whiplash songs. It's just jazz. And so you don't exactly have lyrics like an AC/DC song. Whatever it is, you don't have lyrics or a melody to help jog your memory. So you just have to remember the very specific reference in the film itself. So it's a tough question when it's a very specific detail within the film. That's not something you're going to learn from the trailer, from the poster. So I understand the struggle there. He still should have gotten it just because it's a film that I'm sure he's seen several times. Now, question 2, I have so many issues with question 2 because it asks for the colorblind character's name in Little Miss Sunshine. Had to go to multiple choice. He missed it. It was stolen by Levine. The answer was Dwayne. That was Paul Dano's character. Levine says that it was a guess. But why did this question ask for the 4th lead character's name? For a character's name to be remembered, it takes a very special film for that to happen. Be it Star Wars or No Country for Old Men. It has to be a very certain type of role, type of character for someone to remember the first name, especially when it's the 4th lead. So this is why I'm always talking about objectively easy versus objectively difficult questions. General questions that ask for lead actors that you can spot inside a trailer or on a poster. That's a surface level answer. Conversely, asking for the 4th lead character's name, not the actor, in a 2006 indie, which it's a good movie, but no one makes an appointment to watch Little Miss Sunshine every year. Most of the actor character questions in the Schmoedown ask for the actor name. And to add insult to injury, Sam, from this point on, got 5 questions asking for the actor name, not the character name. So this reminds me of that time Dagnino was asked to name Cary Elwes's character's name in Days of Thunder. So it's such a specific detail that you almost have to watch the movie, which I don't like saying, but in this case it's so specific to where you either have to have seen the movie or you have to study IMDb pages for fun, which is something that I do, but I'm sure most people don't do. So the level of specificity was a problem. Diary of a Teenage Girl, similar issue. Sam said that he saw the trailer when he stole it from the Beast, the cartoonist answer, but I watched the trailer. There's a very quick moment where she's drawing. It's definitely not put on display that she wants to be a cartoonist, so great process of elimination. But trailers can be informative, guys, like I've been saying. In this case, it happened to help Sam when he tied it up. And then the last question, what instrument does Don's brother play in Welcome to the Dollhouse? Another highly specific question about a very small character that was not a lead character. So the problem isn't the category, the problem was the level of specificity. This is why I say that there are difficult questions in the Schmoedown, whether you know the answer or not. Even if you know the answer, a very specific question can still be a difficult question. Turner, let me ask you, do you think asking for the character name of the fourth lead in Little Miss Sunshine is a bit too specific compared to what we're used to being asked in the Schmoedown? Do you think this was a bit overboard as far as the level of specificity?
That's something I got to think about. I don't know.
Would you agree that we're used to questions that ask for the actor, not the character name? Would you agree with me there?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sure.
Because the majority of these type of questions ask for the actor, not the character name. Sometimes the character name will be asked, but it's a very famous character. Kaiser Soze, what was the alter ego, Verbal Kint. So, Frank, do you think this question was a bit too specific, given that it was the fourth lead in a very small film that was good? Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I think to an extent you have a point there. I think when it comes to naming characters in movies, Bibbiani made a good point about it in his post-match. You don't necessarily remember a whole lot of character names. You remember actors who played or who were in the movie. And I think you could also make an argument that you can certainly have character as an answer based on whether it's a round one question, a round two question, a 2-pointer, a 3-pointer, a 5-pointer. I think there are varying levels of difficulty when it comes to character names. Han Solo, Star Wars, that's a round one thing. This question, I think, could have been a 3 or 5-pointer in the third round. Had this been the only difficult question in round two, I could probably see it happening, because usually you do get one of those one questions in each round or in the first two rounds where it's a little higher difficulty than the rest of the questions. And that's just the way the game is formatted from what I remember or understand. It was a little too specific for a second round 2-pointer. I mean, yeah, it was multiple choice, and Sam ended up getting it. In a sense, it is answerable. Yeah, I thought these questions throughout were pretty tough, considering this is Bibbiani, and this is someone that we all know stuff about movies, and it was very interesting to see him go multiple choice and still not able to come up with an answer. I thought going to multiple choice, like I said before, he would at least come away with a point here and there, but man, this was pretty rough.
This would have been a 5-point question, and to counter your point that it's answerable, I would say that it's guessable. Levine just had to pick from 3 choices, whereas the Beast had to pick from 4. But this could have been a 5-point question because last week, Matthew Modine, that was a question that, had you seen the trailer, you could have answered it. Not everybody would have, but Matthew Modine was in the trailer. It asked for what actor played Captain Taylor in 47 Meters Down. Matthew Modine was in the trailer. You can infer that it was him. It was just asking for the actor's name, though. It wasn't asking Nose to name the character name that Matthew Modine played. That would be even harder. People would be rioting in the streets if Matt Nose's 5-point question was name the character name that Matthew Modine played in 47 Meters Down. That would be cruel. And by comparison, the fourth lead of Little Miss Sunshine, Paul Dano, if it was his Eli Sunday character, that's one thing. Name his character name in There Will Be Blood, Eli Sunday. That is worthy of a round 2, question 2 distinction. It would have been a really hard 5-pointer based on the Matthew Modine comparison.
I'll be the guy on the island here. I know you said it's not the category, but I just didn't like this category. I found it not fun, I guess, would be the answer. And maybe it did have something to do with the questions. I don't know. I said this in our little group that we have. I said, I wish this pie slice would be burned and then separate its ashes so it can't put itself back together. I get it, for every action adventure and for Tom Cruise, there needs to be a category like this. But for me personally, I don't like this category. I just don't.
See, I don't think you can judge it after one go around when you had.
But I will.
You had the hardest questions we've seen in some time that were oddly specific, that go against years of Schmoedown questions that have been asked. So, of course, no one's going to like a category initially when you're getting harder questions than usual. But when it comes to films like Wind River, I want a category that asks stuff about Wind River. or Hell or High Water. I mean, these are festival darlings. Mother debuted at festivals. Arrival debuted at festivals. There's a lot of great movies that we see that would apply to this category. So I think it's unfair to judge it off 4 questions that were unlike usual Schmoedown questions.
Unfair to judge? No.
Unfair to judge after just 4 questions when most questions ask for actors, not character names? Yeah, I think it's too soon. We've had the same categories for so long now that I'm just happy we're getting different stuff, whether it's Nolan, whether it's Carpenter, whether it's Festival Darlings. I don't care as long as we're getting new stuff instead of the same 5.
I just want to say also as well, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but this doesn't really mean that you have to go to festivals to know these movies, because a lot of the time, as I understand it, you take a look at movies like Moonlight, Festival Darling, you got some mainstream notoriety. Maybe the Oscars, help propel it more. The Disaster Artist that's in festivals right now, you're going to hear about that pretty soon when it comes out in theaters. That's been a Festival Darling this year. Everyone's loved it. So it's not like these are super obscure movies necessarily. Sure, you'll get your indies, but
this is the
I think you will still see some movies where you're like, oh, that's a pretty popular film, but it was at a festival at one point and everyone loved it. And I think, I hope people don't get too hung up on the fact that this category is going to have super obscure movies that no one's seen.
Too late. It's already happened.
Guys,
but the thing is, it's the movie release dates category for me. It's like, my God.
Moonlight, La La Land, all festival darlings, and then we all came to know them by the end of Oscar season. So it's not as intimidating as this particular set of questions implies. Just keep it open.
It slayed the beast. It slayed the beast. That's what happened in this category. But
wrong place, wrong time.
Well, Samm Levine got up there and he spun 90s and said, I'll stick with it. He goes 2 of 4. He got 3 points. Bibbs did add a 2-point steal. He stole Richard Gere in The Jackal, often confused with Bruce Willis. They are the 2 co-leads in that film. So at the end of 2, going into the 3rd, Levine has a 12-11 lead. Man, it just did not go the way we were thinking here, at least in my opinion. Frank, what'd you think?
When Bibbiani got that 2-point steal right off the bat, I said, oh boy, we got a match here. We got a match. And Levine then continued to struggle somewhat in this round, only getting 3 points through his turn. It could have been worse too for Levine had Bibbiani was able to capitalize on that last question. Couldn't come up with a 2-point steal there. That would have been huge in this game. But man, to see 2 guys like this struggle, very surprising, because I really thought we were going to see one of the greatest all-time matches, even though we just saw one of the greatest all-time matches just the other day. So yeah, this one really threw me for a loop, just the way this round went.
It's close. It's tight-knit. 12-11. What'd you think, Brian?
Well, I was just amused by the fact that the first question Sam got was asking for an actor name, Richard Gere, and then, of course, the Beast stole it. So actor names the Beast doesn't have problems with, but when you ask for the 4th lead actor's character name, then it's a totally different ballgame. The second question, Matt Dillon, name the actor. The third question, name Drew Barrymore's stepmother in Ever After, Angelica Houston. That's an actor. So 3 of the 4 questions were all actor-based. So the Beast has a right to be perplexed a bit. And then question 4, the submarine in Red October, the Hunt for Red October, this is not in the trailer. It's not on the poster. The name of it was Dallas. So this is one of those details that is so specific, you do have to end up seeing the film to know it, or you have to be a person who frequents Wikipedia, like I do, to know such a detail. So this is why I keep saying there are specific questions, highly specific questions that are difficult, even if you know the answer. Even if you know the answer, you can admit that it's so specific that, yes, it is difficult, just in the type of question that it is. 12-11, going in round 3.
Bibbs is up first. He had to get some momentum going, but he missed the 2 right off the bat. Snatch was the answer.
Maddening.
Wasn't going well, but he did hit the 3. He got the next one. Benjamin Button and Fight Club, 2 David Fincher films that Brad Pitt has starred in. So we go back to Samm Levine. He missed his 2-point question. Kristen Wiig was the director in The Martian. He did hit the 3, however.
You chose the number 8.
Yeah.
That is the category of 80s movies.
Okay,
80s
that's appropriate.
Movies. All right.
With the number 8.
In The Princess Bride, according to Vicini, what is the most famous of the classic blunders?
Never get into a land war in Asia?
That is correct. That is correct. 3
Well remembered. Wow. Well
Puts
remembered.
it back to Bibbiani.
Never get into a land war with Asia from The Princess Bride. My God, what a pull here to put himself up 15-14. Levine retakes a brief lead.
This is where Levine's day job, being an actor, comes in handy because he has the ability to remember quotes in ways that most players do not. And I recognize this in previous matches, but especially during our interview with him. And he proved this with that Goonies question in one of the tournament matches where he was able to pull that Goonies quote out of thin air, it seemed like. But he has this ability to remember quotes and quote things that most of us may not have just because he's used to memorizing lines. So when he likes a line, it makes an impact on him to where he can pull it like this. So this was an unbelievable pull. One of the greatest pulls the Schmoedown has ever seen. I'm not surprised. Before that, his 2-pointer, again, it asked for an actor name. No surprise there. He missed it, though, as he guessed Jeff Daniels, because Jeff Daniels was doing the majority of the talking when it came to addressing the media in The Martian. So it's understandable why he would confuse Jeff Daniels versus Kristen Wiig. She was kind of just standing around in that movie, very confused why they would choose a question about her versus him. And I'm not trying to make this a big deal or anything, but he was the one who had the majority of those media scenes. Regardless, the Beast missing that snatch question. This is a film that has recognizable character names, unique character names. There's no excuse for him to miss this. Very frustrating, but yeah, at least Fincher saved him there. 7 was an option as well as far as Brad Pitt, David Fincher films, but Samm Levine, unbelievable pull, and hang on to that Jeff Daniels thought as we get to the 5-pointer.
It's down to Bibbs here. He had to get this to send it back to Sam. And what do you know it? Jeff Daniels, like you just said, in Looper, comes back to haunt Bibbs. He can't pull it. 15-14. Samm Levine is your victor. A lot more brackets were torn up just now. Frank, give me your overall thoughts on the match, and what did you think?
I love this match. I love it. I love it a lot, and I think, Sam's pool, Land War in Asia, right now that's pool of the tournament. Yeah. Could be one of the pools of the year. Just a great moment. Just little great moments throughout this match. I mean, you go to Bibbiani's perfect first round. I mean, Bibbiani going 0 for 4. To Sam getting a lead heading into the third round. No one probably thought that would happen. The amazing pull that Levine had. Man, just a great match. And although it wasn't performed at these players' top levels, it was still a sight to see. I was really looking forward to watching this match, and it lived up to every bit of it. Although it was low scoring, it didn't matter. A lot of things going on in this match that I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty, but it was definitely a dogfight to the bitter end. Brian, what did you think overall, man?
I don't mind weird matches. I don't mind strange matches. After the match that we got Tuesday, I like having something that is completely opposite. The fact that Sam had just answered Jeff Daniels for his 2-pointer and missed, I thought for sure that the Beast was going to have that on his mind when that Looper question came up. The question was something like, who managed the Loopers? I thought for sure that the Beast was going to come away with Jeff Daniels just because Levine potentially jogged his memory. But that wasn't the case. He missed it. There's no excuse for the Beast play in round 3. He missed 2 answerable questions in Snatch as well as Looper. I don't want people to bury him for round 2, though. Festival Darlings, it's a new category, but the questions, as I've been saying, were so specific that I don't want people to bury him and his performance in that round. Yeah, he went over, But the fact that he went perfect in round one, that proves that he is not someone you can overlook or take for granted, because he's capable of going an entire match and being perfect. But in the case of round two, we had some very unusual, some very specific questions that we don't normally get. And it backfired, but props to Sam. Sam pulled it out. And as you guys have been saying, the Princess Bride pull, I'd be shocked if there was a bigger and greater pull in this singles tournament. And so far, guys, we should call this the ultimate Schmoedown Steals tournament, because we've had more steals than I can ever remember in a short period of time. There's been just steals for days. So, ultimate Schmoedown Steals tournament. See, it's already catchy as hell. You guys love it. You're putting it on a t-shirt right now. No? That one didn't work? Okay. It sounded better on paper.
Yeah, usually does.
Well, who would have known that Ryan Johnson's Looper would have thrown a brick into Bibbs' title hopes? Man, it's awful.
God, you're killing it. You got...
Thank you. Took you a minute, but thank you.
See, I'm being generous here. I'm going to give you that.
I got to say one thing, though, that we didn't touch upon with Bibbiani's second round. He skipped Tarantino.
He did.
Why are people skipping Tarantino? I do not understand it. I do not understand it at all.
Well,
explain this to me.
Hang on here. Samm Levine was in a Tarantino film. Sam knows Tarantino, and I asked Beast about this. He said he was worried that Sam would be able to steal anything that he couldn't get. Yeah, Tarantino's only got 8 films, but look at the guy you're playing. You're playing a guy who's been in a Tarantino film and knows Tarantino's work inside out. So, as we've said before, when you choose defensively, it never ends up well. Like, go for your strength. Do not worry about what the competitor can steal. Just go for what you can get.
Right.
So he knows he made a mistake. He knows he should have stuck with Tarantino. Only 8 films. Multiple choice, you have a better chance of answering as well, versus some weird category, as we saw the last time a team skipped Tarantino. And it's funny, when we talked to Sam, he was talking about how, maybe Quentin will play someday. And I said, well, hopefully he skips today's match. That was the T10 match where they had skipped Tarantino. I said, hopefully he skips today's match or doesn't see today's match where someone passed on his category. And sure enough, it happened in his next match, in Sam's next match as well. So, strange days, guys.
Well, let's talk about the post-match interview now. Hey, it's Jen Sturger. She's back. We love her. And of course, up first is your victor, Samm Levine. He is making a quest now, guys. He wants Harloff. I didn't see this coming. I didn't know where this came from. I think it's very odd that we go from free-for-all where Sam was victorious. He goes to the Dan Merle match. He wasn't as victorious. And now he's right back in line for a possible shot at the title, which is just an amazing story altogether. Frank, what do you think of Sam here?
You never know what you're going to get with Samm Levine, who he's going to go after. Because, he could very well go after, I don't know, the garbage man, because, he took his plate off his table too early one time. I don't know. It's always entertaining to see where he goes in his post-match interviews. He talked about Roca, everyone's nice except for this one guy, Roca. I cannot wait to see if that match happens. If he goes through the tournament and it follows my bracket, these are going to be some great matches he's going to be up in, and really that whole side. But still, Levine's the guy. This Harloff thing, I'm not sure what quite to make of it, where it's really coming from. I hope we get some clarification on that down the road. It'd be interesting to see what kind of perhaps kayfabe, if that's going on. That'd be interesting to see. I'm just glad Levine won. I like Bibbiani, but I like Levine just as much.
Brian, what'd you think, man?
Well, I like that Sam, first off, Jen at the wall, always fabulous, always enjoyable in every aspect of the post-interview. The only interviewer, as far as I'm concerned. But Sam echoed a lot of what I've been saying lately in regard to certain questions. There are certain questions where they have surface-level information as the answer that you can discover via trailers, like he did with the Diary of a Teenage Girl question. But when it comes to character names, he acknowledged, that's something that is very deep within a film and not something that you tend to remember unless it's a very famous film or a very unique character like an Anton Chigurh or an Eli Sunday. So I like that he is helping to establish his point that people keep contending with me over when it comes to what constitutes an easy versus difficult question. People keep pulling this, everything's subjective, and that's not true. It doesn't matter what you know. There are still objectively easy and difficult questions on the surface. A general question, who played Han Solo? That's an easy question. It's general. It doesn't require you to see any movie because it is such a part of pop culture. But naming the fourth lead in a 2006 indie film, Little Miss Sunshine, played by Paul Dano, naming his character's name, that is so highly specific that you can look at that question and say, yeah, that is a difficult question, even if you happen to know it. So Sam was echoing a lot of what I've been saying and helping to prove that, yeah, there is a big distinction between naming the actor and naming the character. But I like what Sam did in this match. I like that we have a potential Harloff rivalry in case he wins the tournament. We've got that to pull on. There's a lot of stuff that can be pulled on there. So I'm very excited about where this match takes us. So good match, strange match, one that we'll remember and talk about for a long time.
We go to the Beast side of the interview. I swear I've heard the name Paul Dano more between the Beast and this episode than I don't think Paul Dano's mother has said his name that many times, but that's fine. I'm just saying the Beast was very, a little bit dejected, as he should be, but he was humble at the same time. And we know that we're going to see Bibbiani again. He's a great character. He's a great player. He's very entertaining. We love the Beast. The Beast isn't going anywhere. So fans out there that are big Beast fans, Growling Commandos fans, Chris Clark, I'm talking to you right now. He's going to be back. I know it hurts right now, but don't worry. He's coming back. Growl, 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 growl. Frank, what did you think of the Beast here?
Man, I just don't know what to really think of the Beast anymore, really, to tell you the truth. He's so up and down, and his, Ricky wasn't there. Maybe he needs Ricky for good luck. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
I mean, he's got to look for something. Yeah, to be, he talked about being out early with the teams, and now this. So it's been a rough road, and I don't know.
Seems like it's been a minute since that Andraco match, for sure. Brian, what did you think here, man?
My opinion of the Beast is still the same as it ever was. He has as much knowledge, if not more knowledge, than anyone in this league. Unfortunately, he's overthinking certain things. I think his hubris, as he admitted, has been a problem as he's overlooked players that he shouldn't have. But he's getting too cute at the wheel. Passing on Tarantino, you just can't do that. I know he knows Tarantino, but you cannot be intimidated by your opponent and them potentially stealing something from you. If you know you can answer those questions, go for it. Just go for it. And when it came to the critically acclaimed upset in the team tournament, they got cute by going Hitchcock. It's like, I realize you guys know you're Hitchcock, but it's still an old-time category that can easily trip you up versus something more recent, more modern. So he's been getting cute with the wheel of late, and I think he needs to lay up next time. Don't get cute at the wheel. Take the safe bets. Don't worry about anyone else but yourself.
And that will conclude our recaps for this week, but we want to give you guys a bracket update so we can tell you where we're at and see how good or how bad we have done this week. I'll start with myself. I'm 3-1 currently. I missed the Beast against Samm Levine. I did not want to betray the Beast, but he ended up betraying me in the end. So I did lose that one. But the other three, Kalinowski and all those, I have got. So 3-1 so far. Frank, what about you, pal?
Yeah, I got the JTE match right. I got the Snyder match right. I got Kalinowski right. And I did get Levine right. So
4-0.
So 4-0, but I'm sure that's going to change in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, boy. Brian, what about you, man?
I'm sitting pretty at 4-0. I wisely faded MVP since I knew the fan base would now be jumping on board the bandwagon I created when I picked above the line to win the team tourney, with McWeeny emerging as the MVP of the tourney, which he has. So I had to find new MVPs. And that's why I've got high hopes for Cushing and Kalinowski still. I knew my Sam pick would pay off because Sam's karma is at an all-time high thanks to Free For All. His confidence is also at an all-time high thanks to the team tournament. So I'm really excited about a potential JSR showdown as well as the smack talk between Levine and JSR. So I'm sure JSR is going to take care of Inman, but I cannot wait to see that potential matchup.
Well, let's conclude this episode with who won the week. Who do we think did it? And I'll start with this one. It's got to be one person. That's JTE won the week. My goodness. I will now refer to him as Josh the Giant Slayer because he's taken out the Beast. He's taken out the Godfather. Multiple defenses of the team title belts. This might be JTE's year. Unbelievable saying that from what we've seen in the past. The Cody Miller match still quite fresh in my mind. Unbelievable stuff. Frank, who won the week for you?
Yeah, I got to go with JTE as well. You know, I picked JTE because he certainly has the ability to beat anyone, as Brian said earlier. He can, and he beat Bibbiani, and that's what I was kind of basing my prediction on, is that he beat Bibbiani. Why not McWeeny as well? Why not take him out? That's what he did, and I think, you know, he has so much confidence from his team run that, you know, I mean, he's always had the confidence, but just more so now that he's 7-0 in teams. It's ridiculous, and yeah, I think you saw that happen in this match against McWeeny. He's in title mode all the time, even in singles when he's not competing for a title, and that's why he won the week. That's why he beat McWeeny. I loved everything from JTE this week.
Brian, that's 2 votes JTE. Will you make it a third?
Of course I'm going JTE. All of Patriots MODOK, JTE's sudden death heroics continued against MVP this week. JTE, he's my player of the year right now. He beat Bibbs, he beat Knapsack and MVP. Yes, he barely lost to Clark. However, he's dominated in teams, going 4-0 as we all know. And given all the abuse he takes, going 7-1 across singles and teams in 2017, that's a heck of an accomplishment. If Cushing wins the singles tourney, or if Harloff beats whomever his opponent is at Spectacular, my mind could change, but right now, my God, JTE FTW, I just hope that he's able to continue playing as the underdog. He thrives as the underdog. Like many players, such as Jason Inman, as soon as they're put in that favorite position, their game completely crumbles. So as long as he's the underdog, expect big things.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Schmoedown Rundown. We appreciate you listening as always. Frank Janisch, #StatSack. Where can we find you, buddy?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at FrankieJ29, as well as posting some stats on the Twitter page of at SD Rundown Stats.
And every Schmoedown from here on out, sir.
Forever, yes. Never. Okay. Forever, ever.
Sounds forever, ever?
There you go. That's what I was looking for.
Brian, where can you be found, man?
BDF331 on Twitter, as well as filmschlubspodcast.com.
You can find me on Twitter at ATTitanium, and I special shout out to the guys over at Take 3 for having me for their reaction video for Bibbs and Levine. You can check that out. And follow them on Twitter at Take 3 Trivia. We will see you next week. Don't forget our show, of course, at SD Rundown and at SD Rundown Stats. We'll see you. Paul Dano.